Hi, readers. It's Lauren. Happy Thursday. Today, we're going to go ahead and get into chapter 4 of the Last Consort series, which is a romantic suspense series. And today, I am drinking a French sparkling wine, which is really nice and pleasant. It's nice for the hot weather today. So that's what I'm enjoying. And let's sit back and hear chapter 4. Chapter 4. Thoughts had never passed before as they did for Garrett there in the parking lot of the coffee shop. A new experience of worry, fear, and anxiousness had blended into a creature that seemed to linger wherever he had gone that morning, likely because of the significant decision he was about to make. Intricate lines ran along his thoughts, all connected to William, who shared a significant connection to Christine. He was like a brother to her. Garrett noticed it very early on. His supportive nature paired well with Patricia's. They were a trio, tightly knit, so tight that it strangled Christine when she slept. Rochelle Evans had no clue who any of them were, just that she wanted to keep abreast of Eric's whereabouts. He's trouble that I'd like you to keep watch of, Rochelle said in a near whisper. Garrett had been so entranced by her when she first walked into his shared office space, her very presence, intimidated a bit of sovereign dignity in the way she sat before him. She was still stunningly beautiful, and her aging, her silver locks of hair held upward, and a swath of twists held together with a single red band of fabric. Rochelle had been excellent at her delivery, so much that he had found himself completely encapsulated and ready to join her cause. He didn't consider the potential or the eventual when he reached out and shook her hand. Garrett continued to ignore the reality that the trouble he had already encountered had saved his life, but he in return would lay paths leading to destroy his. Garrett had just settled into the top of the desk area, leaning with amazing comfort after preparing a cup of green tea, no sugar, nothing added, just straight like a true tea connoisseur. He smiled, handing over a cup to Charlene, the new addition to the nurses' station, who had found a likeness to him through his blog, Ask Mr. G. He awakened his laptop from sleep mode, bringing the device to life to show Charlene his latest outpour his readers were about to digest in a quick 10-minute read. Feeling an unanticipated bout of pride as his blog was slowly leaving the tarmac instead of where it had been, stuck with the engine purring and pulling, perhaps he had finally done something right. It hadn't been his track record. He was tired of barely making it, holding his head above water as he struggled in an awkward acrobatic spider-like crawl beneath, only to find that he had missed something midway, had to turn back, do it all over again. He smiled to himself and took in a long, slow pull of earthly tea. I really enjoyed your last article, Garrett. I think you should do something personal next time around, Charlene suggested. She sipped from her mug and disagreed with the experience inside the handled purple chamber with a quick shake of her head. I need sugar. I'm not into this like you. She rolled the chair to the other side of the desk, stuck her arm in past his view, and recovered a small packet of sugar. There. He laughed and casually took another pull of his tea, a moment of calm before he heard an angry yell of his name from across the room. Randy, a stocky, carrot-colored haired frequenter of the emergency room for the past month, started toward him. Randy's back. Did he hit the neighbor's kid now? Garrett asked as Randy continued forward, the anger firing up on his jaw and forehead. He could see the tiny beads of sweat lighting below his brows, which paired the circumstances with the cranberry red tint and blotches of the same on his cheeks as he came closer than Garrett was comfortable. You made them take my little girl. You've only made things worse. The guy had been there enough to question every reason for his being there. The last time had been the final straw. His little girl looked like she had been someone's punching bag. Garrett had been asked to qualify the circumstances that afternoon, unfortunately having reason to suspect the worst. Randy, just a moment. Just calm down so we can talk. Don't tell me to calm down. I can't believe they listen to you. Randy, listen to me. Take a breath. I am breathing. You call yourself qualified to help? He hissed, the words ending in a sprinkling of frothy spit from the corners of his mouth. Garrett stood against the desk area and tried to calmly convince the guy methodically coming towards him to think otherwise. Randy stepped in closer suddenly with the stride of an attacking pit bull. His pulse quickened as he tried with desperation, slowly creeping into the edge of his voice. Let's talk, Randy. Let's relax. I know you're angry. Damn right I'm angry. It happened so fast. Randy had moved swiftly before the desk, pushing everything off in a successful sweep from the top, and pulled Garrett toward him by the collar of his shirt. You're going to pay. I'm calling security, Charlene said. Hey, he's just doing his job and you're making a scene, another voice interjected. I'm going to kill him. He ruined my family, Randy shouted, lunging toward Garrett. He could only see Randy, the burning anger in his eyes, and a hint of pickle on his breath like he'd scarfed down sauerkraut right before he decided to make his way to kill him. Then Garrett saw the knife. Hey, the nameless nurse who had interjected stepped in front of him and grabbed the angry man. He quickly pinned Randy against a wall nearby. Garrett watched as Randy struggled with the nurse. Put it down and stay still. Where's security? He asked, his tall figure leaning into Randy as a few of the nurses poked their heads toward the ruckus. Drop it, the nurse commanded. Then Randy spit a nasty, frothy foam up toward the nurse's face. Garrett watched as the nurse closed his eyes in disgust, reared back, and punched him right in the middle of his face, just as security finally arrived and Randy dropped the knife. Are you all right? He asked as Randy was ushered from the room. Garrett's rescuer wiped his face with a napkin handed to him by Charlene. Garrett was still scared shitless, overwhelmed by the reality that he could have died. The nurse stood tall and confident, a deep scar on the right side of his face, a tattoo of a dragon on the inside of his right arm, and his left arm cupped in a dark Shinto-styled water print. Yeah, I'm good. I just need a moment, thank you. Shit, Garrett, said Charlene. He didn't feel comfortable speaking, nausea suddenly hitting him. A minute to recoup was what he needed. Better yet, 10. Someone was looking out for you, Will. Dr. Benton just called for you. There was something about the guy that signaled to an inward impulse. Thanks for saving my ass. Tell that to administration when they suspend me, or better yet, make me have to speak to you in a few weeks. He walked off, tossing Randy's remnants into a trash receptacle. That nurse, what's his name again? He asked Charlene. Your subject for your personal experience piece? Garrett chuckled and needed to hear something outside of his thudding heartbeat still very actively sounding in his ears. Forget the nervous jitter from his hands. Yeah, him. I don't know him. That's Will. I don't know if I'd have done that for you, she laughed and went back to her desk, picking up items from Randy's recent burst of anger. Garrett tapped the counter in a quick nonverbal form of thanks and allowed his thoughts to take command. Then he grabbed his laptop, forgot his mug, and made his way to the office down the hall, locking the door behind him. End of section. William stirred creamer into his second cup of coffee since sitting down at a coffee shop. He used the time off from work as a chance to recover his thoughts, which for obvious reasons couldn't stop racing as if an animation flip book in an editing loop. Sleep had abandoned him at 2 that morning. He had been up ever since. His routine had quickly evolved into that of the volunteer taxi driver dropping off the kids to school and Patricia to work right before sitting down at the coffee spot, a local coffee bar, the newest trend among the new local restaurants and thrift shops selling used shirts at high-end prices and hand-blown glass mobiles made by a 20-something entrepreneur. He waited for Garrett, who had texted him earlier with a sudden bout of urgency. William figured he'd wanted to chat about something, but seemed to delay the conversation following his recent days of troubling affairs. He had become unable to suppress those thoughts that created unwanted lines on the forehead, his continued face rubs, and the occasional chew on the lower lip. It won't take much of your time, Garrett said quickly, pulling up a chair to the table. He startled him with his introduction. William was off on his game and had been for a bit, even before the recent incidents. Garrett, God, you popped up on me. You're not okay, Will. You just, never mind. I'm not investing in anything. Not a damn dollar, if that's what this is. No investment, he said with a chuckle. I wanted to get your advice. He looked up with the call of his name from the counter and quickly returned, balancing a large white cup and a white swirl with like a far-off galaxy floating on top of the warm brown foam. Garrett was excitable, filled with a restlessness that reminded him of Lisa's third-grade class. I'm thinking of proposing to Christine. William leaned back in his seat with his announcement. Thinking or going to? Going to. I want her to marry me. I'd be honored to get your input. Haven't you guys been dating for just a few months? Isn't that a bit early? My father married my mother 4 weeks after he met her at a church barbecue. Really? Yes, 35 years next May. Well, you LeBlancs go for it early. No, we believe in moving when we know we've got the best thing that's going to ever happen to us. William leaned a little toward Garrett, squinting as his last statement finished its biting. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Is that a below the belt comment, Garrett? No, I didn't mean it like that. Not at all. We all have our different walks. Waking up from darkness to find her beside him, her hand sheltering his, Patricia's very essence dancing with the light mist of warm summer rain, her scent, her voice, he couldn't live without her. They hadn't yet taken those steps. He hadn't taken those steps. I really love her, and I want her to be there for the rest of my life. Honestly, I think you're nuts. But if you feel that way about her, then go for it. Maybe it's like what you said. You know the best thing for you, or person, I should say. What if she says no? She might. Then she may say yes. I don't know. Christine is a special person. Take care of her. Garrett sips from his cup, wiping the bit of foam with his index finger in a quick pull, the moment of wordlessness instead becoming a stare off. Garrett's unwavering view met him. I'm going to go ahead and ask this because Chris is really, you know, uh, you two were never involved, were you? Involved? You mean like a relationship or? No, not at all. Garrett lingered above his coffee, idling as if waiting for more information without opening his mouth. Christine and he worked well together, the same mental pull game. Why, Garrett? You've got a connection, I've seen it. She has nightmares. You're in them, and she doesn't tell me much more. Hmm. Both she and Patricia have been through some trauma. What, starring you? No. William pulled against the skin on his face and rubbed the back of his neck, looking up as another customer walked into the shop. Garrett settled his cream colored face into his palm and looked at him again, studied him for a few minutes. There's an obvious secret between the three of you. There's a hell of a lot you don't share well. I got a feeling my long fishing trips and old college friends turned Broadway sensation are quite uneventful compared to you. He smirked and slowly leaned in toward Garrett. This has nothing to do with my opinion, Garrett. Why suddenly did Garrett decide to palpate? He had never been obligated to talk much about anything. They had been very good about keeping up appearances. No, it doesn't. It's just that there's a deep kind of darkness that possesses her, a dangerous kind, and you are somehow a part of that. I don't want to lose her because of it. William stared across the table at Garrett. How little had Christine even admitted to him, really? You've got a lot of nerve, Garrett. Maybe I should have let your angry buddy give you a scar. Look, I'm sorry. I thought you'd tell me what it was. That's it. He wasn't going to tell Garrett a damn thing. You know very well that has to come from her. William unnecessarily moved his empty cup of coffee as Garrett continued to linger. Have you ever really been there, Garrett? The dark? I mean, you talk to people every day, but you listen. You've never really been to that place, have you? He could tell Garrett pondered for a moment. Garrett had probably never seen anything outside of his own bubble. The person who just drove past the bad parts of his grandmother's neighborhood, heard of the kid getting shot in the back alley, and felt the anger of hearing that news. He wasn't privileged, but he had no clue about those back ends if you really see and touch and commit to forgetfulness. No, I don't think I have. Just give her light. When she's ready to explain that place, she'll do so. Do that for her and she'll say yes. Maybe not now, but eventually. Have you been to the dark, Will? William chuckled, the uncomfortable sort of huff that is pure reaction, lacking any emotional connection. I I struggle with that one. Honestly, I've never left, but I do need to stop shielding my eyes. Garrett took a final drink from his white ceramic cup, long and intentional. I think I'm good. Thank you for not slugging me. I don't want you to be the first person who hits me in the face. I'll let you know what happens. I'm sure Pat will tell me before you do, he joked. So how are you going to do it? I've got it all planned out. Uh, dinner and a movie. Then you pop the question in front of that fountain with the dancing lights in the Playa de Rocco open area, said William. Garrett stared at him with a look of stupid on his face. How the hell did you know that? I was kidding, Garrett, William laughed. Oh my God, I guessed it? They both erupted into laughter. He needed the humor more than he admitted. The location had filled with more patrons by the time the two had reached the point of the conversation. William had not abandoned the fact that his so-called friend had tried several times to pry in areas never touched. He didn't understand why his questions had foamed to the top of his agenda, as they had. I've got a meeting to get to in an hour. Thanks, Will. I'm going to scat. Questions. Questions that had the worst of an answer because it stung, it burned, and it tortured. He watched Garrett leave through the glass doors to the building, the last bit of caramelized coffee at the bottom of his cup, reacting to his movements. It was then that William finally acknowledged the text message he'd ignored earlier from his father. Might have something for you. Grabbing lunch. Then we'll chat. End of chapter. Well, thank you guys for being here today. That's the end of chapter 4. It is a very warm day here in SoCal. We've been having some very hot days for the past week or so, and now we're getting ready to greet a hurricane off the coast of Baja. So we'll see if we get rain this Saturday. But we do hope that you enjoyed being here. I'm going to, I dropped making a mess here. I'm going to go ahead and finish my glass of wine. I do hope that you enjoyed today's read. Forgive my heat, but we do thank you again for being here. If you are enjoying what you're reading or you're listening to, this is the Last Consort Adaptation. That's book 2 of the Romantic Suspense series. Book 1 is available on Amazon, which is The Last Consort Escape. Book 2 is The Last Consort Adaptation, which is again book 2 of the series, and that one is available on the Free Minds Publications website or Barnes & Noble or Kobo. I will be able to, of course, put that in the links for this stream. Also, I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and of course here on YouTube. You can, of course, stream previously read chapters from the first book or the second book, which again we are reading, and stand by because the book 3 is on its way. We are furiously finishing that one up, so you can catch up in the series. So thank you again for being here. I'm at laurenschultzauthor.com. You can check me out on my website, and again, subscribe and like here on YouTube. See you next week when we'll get into chapter 5. Have a great day.